Hello and welcome to another edition of StandPoint. It's a wonderful day. You're out there, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to another edition of StandPoint. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. The recent move by the Department of the State's Security against 7 judges has continued to generate controversies amidst, in the polity, in the manner that the timing and the legality. People who have been speaking with different voices have commended and condemned as well the DSS Act. The Information Minister described it as undefendable. He said the argument that the NJC is the only authority that can discipline judges, pointing out that what the judges have been accused of is different from when a judge is accused of professional misconduct. Meanwhile, the presidency say it has high regard for the judiciary and insists that the recent arrest of 7 judges, including 2 from the Supreme Court, is not intended to ridicule the third arm of government. And moving out of the arrested judges, the wife of the president, Aisha Buhari, at an interview, warned her husband, President Muhammadu Buhari, that she may not back him at the 2019 election unless he shakes up his government. Though Mrs. Buhari said her husband had not told her whether he would contest the 2019 election, but she had already decided that as it is, that if things continue this way till 2019, she won't go out to campaign and ask women to vote. President Buhari, in response to this, says he doesn't know what political party his wife belongs, and she belongs to his kitchen, his living room, and also the other room. These are the topics on the front burner today. So let me quickly take this break. When we come back, I'll introduce my guest. It's still StandPoint on Television Continental. Stay with us. If you're just joining us, you're reaching us, StandPoint on Television Continental, live from our Lagos studio here. I have my guest in-house. First of them is Igo Akiriga. Igo Akiriga is the president of Civil Liberties Organization. Igo, nice to have you on the program.
Well, it's nice to be here. Good afternoon, Nigerians.
And I also have my cerebral lawyer, and his name is GT Ogunye. GT, nice to have you in the studio.
Thanks for inviting me.
And last but definitely not the least, I have the convener of the National Democratic Coalition of Democrats, that is KODA, Mr. Ayo Padokun. Nice to have you, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here. Viewers, good afternoon.
Let me start from you, Mr. Padokun. Looking at what happened last Friday / Saturday, you are a lawyer, and it's novel. It has never happened in the history of this country that the government of the day will beam its searchlight on judges. How would you describe that particular incident?
Let me presage my contribution by saying as follows. I totally endorse the conduct of the DSS and I thought it ought to have happened at least about 15 years ago. But that had to be set in a context that will make viewers to appreciate where I'm coming from. Since the overthrow of the civilian government of Balewa on January 15, 1966, the Nigerian army had done incalculable damage to everything about Nigeria, including the judiciary. First, you will remember that in order for them to be able to establish their dictatorship, they could not work within the constitutional framework of Nigeria. So, the apex body, a multi-cloud of military juggernauts, constituted themselves into what they call the Supreme Military Council. And that council had both executive, legislative, and judicial powers. In the process, they started the frustration and a great damage to the reputation and the institutional safeguard that the Constitution allowed the judiciary to have in the running of the socio-polity. What that led to, consequently, was that even while the judiciary in the First Republic from day one resisted dictatorship and resisted the executive and the legislature trying to overrun the judiciary, they were totally paced, outwitted, and subjugated and repressed. And you can illustrate that with the fact that during the Lakami Kikeloma's case in 1967, as much as the late F.R. Williams did at the Parliament building where the first sitting of Shomolu Tribunal was set up, once there was a challenge that Section 6.6 of the Nigerian Constitution guaranteed the independence of the Nigerian judiciary, they came up, quite frankly, within the next 72 hours with a decree where they talk about supremacy and enforcement of power decree. And in that supremacy and enforcement of power decree, they set up ouster clauses which prevented the Nigerian judiciary from henceforth looking into the proprietariness of military decrees in all facets. And they amended that severally. So that was where they were coming from. So, but arising from that, what followed, therefore, was that since then, the Nigerian military had corroded and perverted the Nigerian judiciary. All their surrogates, sympathizers, fellow acolytes, loyalists were the ones who were fit and proper to be appointed onto the Nigerian senior bench. It is those people who are rewarded for loyalty to the military organization at one time, either at the state level or at the national level. They've resisted a neater, much more decent, much more decorum type of appointment of looking for the best people to go onto a bench. Here we were, here in Lagos, almost a decade plus ago, when the chief judge here told us that a decree from Babangida was a speech from the Almighty. So that is where we are coming from. And so all the while, I challenged very vigorously that the institution called the NJC has outlived its usefulness. It is totally unfit to preside over its own affairs as our colleagues.
Let me get GT's intervention. That's your first salvo. GT, how will you start with?
Well, when the news broke, Nigeria recognized that something unprecedented had occurred, most novel. And so, regardless of the pitfall of spontaneity, a lot of lawyers ran to town to condemn the action by the State Security Service. Senior lawyers are saying that this Gestapo, this regression into 1984 when Buhari was in power, this anarchy, this dictatorship, this is an attempt to intimidate and overhaul the judiciary and subjugate it and all that. Even the media, in its headline casting, reflected that view. All the media institutions, for example, The Guardian, Governor Wike, who rushed to the scene of an event, an incident, where federal agents wanted to search the building where a federal judge was living in, interfered and prevented that. And Guardian cast a headline as Wike foiled the abduction. If you know the use of words, and I know you know this, when you want to foil, that means you are the one that occupies a higher moral ground. You want to prevent somebody from consummating something that is illegal, that is illicit, that is nefarious. That's how the media started, thereby manipulating public opinion to support the view that judges cannot be arrested or that judges cannot be questioned outside the NJC, which is a lie constitutionally, legally in this country. And so, my reaction is that if you look at the National Security Agency Act, Cap N74, Volume 11, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and I'm referencing Section 2, Subsection 3, Paragraph ABC, that provides for the establishment of the State Security Service. You see that what has been done is accommodated within those provisions. Slim. And what are the provisions that govern the State Security Service? The first is that the SSS shall prevent and detect all crimes within Nigeria that are against our national security. Very broad powers. Keep in mind that this law was made as a decree during the military era, and so it was then brought, and it's not been amended since then. The second is that it has responsibility to collate and preserve classified materials of civil nature, which is not of military nature. And the third one is that it shall discharge all other responsibilities that may be assigned to it by the President or the National Assembly as they deem fit, which affect national security. Meaning that if the President of the country were to designate something as affecting national security and assign a responsibility to the SSS to carry out investigation in that regard, the SSS will have lawful authority and all legalities to carry out that. So I look at the provision of that act and I ask myself, so what has the SSS done in this instance that is so outrageous and is illegal? Initially, people came out to say that, oh, you can't do this in the night. You only execute. And many people have, expressed that even when it was debunked, only recently, Chief Afebalola's son came out in the Point newspaper to also reiterate that lie. Because it's a fallacy that you cannot execute a search warrant, beyond 7 p.m. It's in print. Even when it has been stated that the new Administration of Criminal Justice Act in Section 148, 149, then Section 9, 10, 12, and 13, the combined effect of that, it is possible for you to execute a search warrant at any time. And in executing it, if there is a resistance of entry, you can break open the door, break the window, the walls, and all that, in order to...
Was this stated in that act?
It's there. I can read that to you. We are not in the law class. But it's so stated. And people, when they encounter those provisions, were shocked that, so this is the language of, they say it's there, go and read.
I can break the door.
Yeah, if you Google, it's there, go and read it. And all that. And people then say, yes, okay, but the manner, these are judges.
Okay.
You ought not to. So, and I anchor by saying this.
Okay.
All over the world, this kind of thing is carried out by Secret Service to preserve the dignity of the office of the judge. When people talk about how the police should be the one to do this, I say, police, they are the orderlies of the judge. They are the orderlies of the magistrate. So judges be dragged before them. So if you just don't want things to be done, why do you just invent arguments to frustrate the possibility of doing something good in the country?
GT, I'll still come back to you. Igo, how do you start?
I weep for Nigeria. I weep for this country, and well, I'm not a lawyer, and I want to clearly speak from the, not emotion, and from how the ordinary Nigerian on the street view what is happening. I start by saying that I weep because if we remember 1983-84, when General Muhammadu Buhari was head of state of this country. Yes, the laws are there. Comrade Ayo said just now that, the military drafted the constitution, they overthrew civilian governments and all that. So up till now, as we speak, the constitution remains the baby of the military. It has not been reviewed by civilians. Every attempt to review this same constitution so that Nigerians can own this law has been aborted. So as it is, if those provisions they are lawyers, they are relying on and quoting are there, the military could put them there to preserve their own institution and self-preservation. We are back to the days of prebenda politics, to the Hobbesian state of nature, where life is short and brutish. I'm not going to go into the merit of whether monies were found in the homes of the judges and all that. It is important that that is an issue. But the argument I have read and that I've also heard the lawyers argue is that, yes, the DSS, which had enormous power also, the same power as the other, it was all reviewed recently. It was formerly the Nigerian Security Organization. We cannot forget that the same Buhari, was detaining people without recourse to the rule of law. Give people small towel, flog them, pour cold water on them, and all kinds of things. If the law empowers the head of state at that time to treat Nigerians that way, now we are in a democracy. Nobody is saying that judges cannot be arrested. I cannot, as a honest Nigerian who also know, I've been a victim of, incredible judgments in the court. I took share to court in 1985, and the matter ran for 14 years. A woman, a Lagos woman, high court judge, had the courage to give me judgment against share. And the matter went on appeal. Curiously, the appeal court judges dismissed and gave judgment in favor of the multinational company. So the point I'm making is that now I've also gone to the Supreme Court. I agree here that there's corruption in the judiciary. Just as there's corruption, in every facet of the Nigerian life. What is the best approach? The executive, the DSS are, they are agents of the executive. The executives make this allegation. Our worry in the civil society is this. It means, for example, General Buhari or Lawa Daura, who is his cousin from also Daura, his village, can create an allegation to say, Igwe Akerega has planted some money in his room. And then the DSS comes, no visuals, nobody have seen anything. Since they've been arresting people, yes, people have looted Nigeria. There's no argument about that. For the avoidance of doubt, anywhere, to bridge the space of argument and doubt. Even when the FBI, the American Secret Police, goes for this kind of operations, they go with CNN and all. You see, when people bomb, carry out terrorism and all that, when people carry out all kinds of things in the US, they carry the media along. If you don't trust the private media, take your own NTA along, for example.
For that kind of operation?
I mean, the busting of the judges' homes.
All right,
in that we are with that one.
Okay, let me pause you there, Igo. Let me quickly take this break and we hear what the president of the Nigeria Bar Association said about this and the former president of the West African Bar Association, Mr. Femi Falana, but SAN.
President of the association, Abubakar Mahmood, insists that the invasion of the houses of the justices in the middle of the night by masked security operatives was uncivilized. He added that the presidency's justification of the action of the DSS was not tenable and asked the presidency to always act within the ambit of the law.
We do not think that it is his responsibility to go into issues of this nature that are adequately constitutionally vested in other institutions of government, including the police. We quarrel at the method adopted of raiding the houses of judges in the middle of the night by armed masked men and going there to knock down doors and walls. These judges are not terrorists, and we do not think they should be subjected to that kind of treatment.
According to him, under the Constitution, the DSS is empowered to look into issues of internal security and terrorism, adding that the judges are not terrorists. He maintained that the NBA is not against criminal investigation of judicial officers, but that such action must be conducted in line with the rule of law.
We ourselves are sometimes the worst victims of this phenomena in the judiciary, and will champion any genuine effort, not only by the government, but by all other agencies to address this problem.
He also revealed that from investigation, the 2 judges of the Supreme Court were not invited, neither were there any complaints against them.
We've engaged with the NJC, and there was no evidence that has been made available to us that suggests, in fact, that the 2 justices of the Supreme Court were ever invited, or indeed there was any complaint by anybody against them.
Further stated that a task force committee has been set up by the NBA, headed by former presidents of the association, to make recommendations for strong disciplinary action for erring judicial officers, which will be passed on to the NJC for strengthening.
We have constituted this task force to review the entire architecture of the disparity system of the NJC, and then make recommendations for improvements to enable the National Judicial Council take proper charge and deal with erring members of the judiciary.
All eyes are still on the judiciary to see how the present controversy will end and who will blink first between the judiciary and the executive.
The hypocrisy of the leadership of the bar, Nigerian lawyers, Nigerian Bar Association, and all those who are pretending that all is well with the judiciary of our country. Whenever people had scandalized judges in the past, I have stood out against them because there are damn good judges in Nigeria. There are damn good lawyers in Nigeria, but there are also bad ones. Our duty is to isolate them, identify them, and have them prosecuted for destroying, for desecrating the temple of justice. We must stop queuing behind judges and lawyers whenever they are accused of running foul of the law. The only way we can save the integrity of the profession is to ensure that we take the issue of discipline very seriously. Many of the petitions that the State Security Service is acting on now, regrettably, have been before the National Judicial Council, to the knowledge of the bar.
Still StandPoint on television Continental. Femi Lawson is joining us. So Femi, how will you start?
Well, I want to start from where Mr. Falana just stopped now. And as much as we reserve our right to hold individual opinions on issues of public interest, I think it's also important that we are conscious of what we do in educating or otherwise the general populace. Just in July 31, to be precise, Mr. Femi Falana was in the media condemning the SSS for intervening in the budget padding scandal, which was also a financial crime, so to put it. But today, we have the same set of people justifying the action of the same DSS in another issue that is of the same matter, financial crime. What the judges have been accused of, can be regarded as financial crimes. And if yesterday it was wrong for the DSS to have come in and take over the duty of the EFCC, the ICPC, or the police in investigating budget padding scandal, what makes it right today? But like somebody said a few days ago, if you have, I think it's not too wrong, because it is professional to lawyers to hold one opinion today and another tomorrow. It's in line of their duty. But I think morally, it is wrong for us to justify what the law does not say. And,
how? In this particular issue now?
It is exclusively elementary enough to understand that the duty of the DSS does not extend to what it is currently doing. And if going by what we witnessed in this country last weekend, A lot of us would have thought that on Monday, on Tuesday, these judges would have been arraigned in court. But today, the arraignment has been postponed indefinitely. Then where are we? What have we not justified the opinion of people who said no? This was just an attempt to intimidate the judiciary.
All right, Femi. Mr. Wadoku.
Well, I'm sorry to put this matter again on a page, but I want to again remind viewers that I laid the foundation for what has happened to the Nigerian judiciary. I think there's a misplaced aggression, misplaced understanding of the issues at stake. When people speak and you are talking to millions of people this way, that the act of the DSS is totally wrong, is against their line of duty, what is your background? What is your authority for doing that? That is totally unfounded. It's a misplaced understanding of the law. DSS is supposedly to provide security and intelligence for state security, including the judiciary. So when the conduct of people who are supposed to be ministers in the temple of justice tended to impinge on national security, and you want the DSS to leave them aside. I'm not about to defend what Femi Falana said in July, as you said, or now. What I'm concerned with is about the fact of the matter that in law, the DSS has not done anything against their own responsibility in accordance with the law. These people, maybe it's because quite a number of Nigerians, most are men of birds of what you call these feathers. When it happens, they go to something else. Most of these characters were in all military dictatorship. They never knew where the shoe was pinching us. Look, the first thing is that judges were issuing out judgments that violated everything about their oath of office. And it has been manifestly clear now that they receive bribes for doing so. Now you are making the judiciary to be so undignified for anybody to be interested in going to court any longer, so that people can take law into their own hands and seek for justice for themselves. The consequence of that is that it impinges on national security. Let me tell you, in 1998-99, at the election tribunal, we had just 102 petitions before the tribunal. The generation in 2003, we had 405. In 2007, then we had 1,215. In 2011, we had 2,104. The degeneration was so much that people told us, as men and women in the human rights community, who are concerned with making every vote to count, that they will no more go before any court, before they now know that the judges themselves have been compromised. And you go take your dagger, I take my dagger. So violence will yes, violence will mean violence. Then what happens to the society? I now saw what happened in some areas of the country. The rivers, Akwa Ibom, saw the way they were thumbprinting and they were doing what they were doing, and the way they were beheading in River State, and yet our judges said nothing doing. They gave judgment that thing had never happened, and money was shared. Have they come? Has anybody had got to come into the open to tell us that what the DSS presented as evidence of what they got in these homes were not the new? Have
they presented anything?
I'm surprised.
You are surprised?
Yes, we have not seen anything.
No, you have your turn. You have your turn.
Please let me. We are not in the business of wanting to please anybody, either government or civil. If it is not right, we will not be there. We are sufficiently informed enough that those monies were available. 54 million in the home of a judge. Is he a bank? $170,000 plus. Is he a bank?
A bureau de change.
Is he a bureau de change? And then the thing was clear. They shared it out as if adding criminals would do in their homes. Now, the question to ask all these people who are saying all this, is the judge, does he have a constitutional immunity?
All right. GT, let me bring you in here. What Lawson and Igwe Akiriga just said.
No,
they are talking about morality.
Let me preface what I'm saying, because you see, we don't have all the time to say all we want to say. I'm not a flippant person, and I weigh my words in a public space carefully. Not because of today, but because of posterity. Some of the people that are saying that the SSS actions are justified had been harassed by the SSS in the past. He was in detention. He had no reason to say that what they were doing is justified.
It's also unfortunate.
And Mr. Falana also.
How many years, how many months have we been in detention?
So it has nothing to do with, oh, they said something yesterday. We can't trivialize it like that. I talk about the law. You may talk about something else. What I'm saying is that as of today in this country, and I challenge anybody to the contrary, the NJC principal responsibility is about the employment, appointment of judges, and the regulation of their conduct.
Administrative
regulation of their conduct. Whether what they did or didn't do amount to misconduct, simplicity, or gross misconduct. And so they then award a punishment ranging from warning, suspension, to recommendation of removal from the bench, which the executive will accept. And here I reference Section 292 of the Constitution, first part of the third schedule to the Constitution, paragraph 20, 21, and 22. Section 153 of the Constitution, Section 158, and 160. That's their responsibility. The NJC is not a court. It is not a law enforcement authority charged with the responsibility of investigating crimes. So if you are saying that crimes that are committed otherwise by judges should not be investigated because they are judicial, I say you strike at the heart
saying that.
No, sorry, you have the time. You strike at the heart of the principle of the rule of law, which is equality of all before the law. And that's not even supported by the law. I have referenced Section 98A, B, C of the Criminal Code that provides for corruption and abuse of office. And that when, by a public officer, and that when that public officer is a judge, he may be arrested with a warrant of arrest and proceeded against via an information that is filed by the Attorney General of the state or Attorney General of the Federation, so that that judge will not just casually be proceeded against by a police officer. And the laws are there. And you are saying that the SSS does. I say, okay. Not too long ago, the police couldn't bust a criminal ring around Edo Delta axis that, amongst other things, kidnapped Chief Michael Zekome, son. Most unfortunately, the kidnap was so traumatizing for him that he came out on national television and started calling for amnesty for kidnappers. And people are wondering why I said no. You know, allow him, because it was so traumatic. The wife of a sitting justice of the Supreme Court was also similarly kidnapped. The police couldn't act. The SSS bust that ring. I didn't hear anybody saying that kidnapping is in the criminal code and that is the function of the police. You can call for the amendment of a law, but you can't say that an act that is covered by a law that is so broad in interpretation cannot be subsumed under that act. I have just read to you that that act says that anything that the president says is of national security as a responsibility can be assigned to the SSS. What is your response to that? What I hear people say is that, oh, it is not as if when the EFCC was acting against Fauci, did you see lawyer coming out to say that, no, you couldn't act also. You can't seize the money. There's nothing you are going to say in this country that people will not come out and say, nay, they are naysayers. Oh, it is EFCC. No, it's not EFCC. This is not an economic and financial crime or money laundering. It is corruption, simplicity. It is ICPC, and so on and so forth. These are arguments against doing anything reasonable. I have told you that all over the world, things like this, because of the intelligence required and because of the secretive nature of that operation, are carried out by Secret Service. Because we are talking about the third arm of government. People forget that the judiciary is not just the judiciary.
All right, GT.
The judiciary is also a government.
All right.
It's the third arm of government. And so when you see people make this argument,
we must allow Ego to intervene too.
Is it the same law that you people are interpreting, or you are interpreting something else?
Ego.
I think the issues should be properly laid in perspective. For me, it is not about the nitty-gritty whether the DSS acted outside its bounds. Let us, for example, presume without conceding that the DSS had such powers. Under the law that GT talked about now, it is open-ended that any other assignment that the president assigns to them. Now, if you have a president that has dictatorial tendencies, that is tyrannic in nature, for example, because part of the argument is that, one, if these judges, if this humongous amount of money were indeed found in their homes, why are they not being prosecuted now? Why the media trial? Why because everything that has been done about corruption so far, as far as this is my personal opinion, and a lot of my colleagues hold this opinion, that most of the people arrested so far by this administration, after all the media trial, after all the gerrymandering and the cascading, it ends there. Now they say they've been released of personal recognition. What's the meaning of that? People whom they say have $54 million, yen, Japanese, this and all kinds of things. Now, from my worry is this.
Including Ghanaian cedis.
Yeah, Ghanaian cedis and other, including Cotonou money, all everything. The judge has everything. And that's why people say maybe they are even running a bureau de change. Now, where is the evidence? I want to see. Because you see, like
for them to show the evidence to Nigerians or the court of law.
No, because people are already coming to
the when the evidence was shown, when the evidence was shown in Wabara case in the National Assembly, and the money was put on the table, that's a different scenario. No,
I have this
persecution.
Comrade GT, I have this floor. During Obasanjo's regime, all right, the same DSS investigated National Assembly members whom we are allegedly collecting Ghana must go, for third term and not. And we all saw this money in the National Assembly. They brought the money. Farouk Lawan, in the case of Jimoh Ibrahim, when the allegation that he put more stock money in his car, people saw the money.
Oh, really?
No. They brought people. They should.
Who are the people that
the Inspector General of Police. They said the money is with him, and it was pandering here and there. But the point is this: where is these monies that are discovered in the home? Not 1 or 2, 3 judges.
So you bring
I think
to reduce the argument.
There's one thing I must also correct here. The fact that we hold opinion against the conduct of the DSS does not in any way
that we tolerate corruption. Yes,
whether we like it or not, it's not a judiciary thing. Corruption is endemic. It's everywhere, including the presidency. Today we have people even who are close to the president being accused of corruption.
Of course.
Ranging into even sums that are more than what has been found in the hands of the judges, if truly they are found. But the DSS or the lawyers that have so been supporting the action of the DSS or those that are opposed are not the court. And we must also understand that the judiciary, like he admitted, is an institution on its own. And because of some 20, 30 judges who may have been suspected to have been corrupt, we cannot entirely say that a body of about 1,500 people or more is corrupt.
But nobody has said that.
No, the picture that people have continued to paint is that the judiciary is corrupt. And that's why Baba even said that people are already getting disillusioned about approaching the court. When we say the court, we are not mentioning judges. We are talking about the to us, I personally see this, and that's why I continually align my opinion with that of the NBA and later the NJC as was resolved a few days ago, that this is an affront and this is targeted at the judiciary. Because that is the institution. How far have we been able to go in identifying corrupt judges and exposing them as individuals, rather than this. Even the president started this, if you remember, sometimes last year, when he traveled abroad and said the judiciary. He never mentioned any judge. That's problem. This thing has been pre-planned, and continuously people have continued to attack the judiciary without mentioning names of, we know in this country judges that have openly sold judgments. You understand? What stops us as lawyers, as Nigerians, from rather than denigrating the entire institution, that is, of course, if
there's anybody, the people that will protect the judiciary will be even lawyers.
Thank you very much.
So, tell me, will I say you are crying more than the bereaved?
No, it's not the lawyers alone. It belongs to Nigerians. It does not belong to lawyers. It does not belong to Nigerians that will protect the judiciary.
All right, Mr. Paluku.
I think I need to set my bearing much more profoundly clear. From day one, I have said so that there are so many good judges in Nigeria, and there are so many good lawyers in Nigeria. And even in my interaction with the media in recent days, said Nigerian judiciary was one of the best things even in the Commonwealth. We were to be proud of our judiciary. It is only a small clique of them, but they are corrupting the entire system. Here we were, the late Justice Udo Udoma, Justice Akinola Aguda, Taslim Elias, Kayode Shaw, even Onagoruwa, and the golden days of Nigerian Supreme Court were the days of Kayode Shaw, Chukwudifio Okuta, Obaseki, Adolfo Karubi White, and the likes. We had decent people presiding over our judges, but the Nigerian judiciary started going to the dogs, particularly since the coming into political office of General Ibrahim Babangida, when he bought that baby mess in other manner to give to the judges. And Chief Ganifayami, may so rest in peace, went to challenge that thing in court. That was when we started seeing judges now taking judiciary, paying lip service to the concept of their oath of office. I will illustrate it with 2 or 3 things. Do you know that I never imagined that this will happen in my life? But as soon as they started having judges being appointed over election tribunal, I saw the worst thing to have happened to Nigeria. In 1991, Babangida politics. Oh, if you remember, those who are available then, who are matured enough, you find that interlocutory injunctions, the judges, they will take money from right, left, and center. At the end of the day, they will give it to the highest bidder. Now, I am convinced beyond reasonable doubt, and I've said so. Nobody has been able to challenge what I'm saying. Quite a number of our judges today are behaving like one-man chance of the armed robbers. Because when they put them into this election tribunal, it's as if they will never be put into such a place again. So they collect as much as they can. Let me utilize the case of Akwa Ibom to illustrate it. The one of Sokoto State, to illustrate it. Monies were traced from the bribe giver, from where he set out the money, and the account it was paid into in several instances. And you say that only few people that cannot talk about. We, as lawyers, will never denigrate the judiciary. That is our own field. We want the best for it, but we are not having the best at all, because first of all, you remember, like I said, the military had laid down a terrible onslaught against the Nigerian judiciary. The process of appointment into the high bench have been fraught with a lot of terrible policy measures. It was a reward. It had only been a reward for loyalty and sympathy, either to the military administrator or to the man at the center. So those judges never knew how to stand for the people, but to support government of the day. In the one we are talking about now, the certain thing, Let our people be appreciative that there is none of these cases that is recent, that is new. Most of these matters have been on for more than 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, and yet the Nigerian Judicial Council never did anything and asked finally on this course. I say finally, of all the time that the NJC had opportunity to correct even its administrative errors, what had it happened? People were found, judges were found to have stolen plenty sum of money. They asked them to go home, so go and steal no more. Loot. Go and enjoy your loot. That has been the lot of Nigerians. So what is it that we exact any new judge not to do the same thing?
NJC recommended the prosecution of Justice Alta. I think that's the first time I'm hearing that.
It's an isolated and recent one. In fact, in all the cases that NJC has dealt with, and rightly so, NJC has restricted itself to its disciplinary functions, awarding punishments in respect of alleged misconduct. NJC has not dabbled into whether what is alleged to be an act of misconduct, even though proven, also constitutes a crime. That is not within the jurisdiction of the NJC.
No.
And that's why I argued earlier that, you know, the NJC it doesn't even have the investigation resources to do it. If NJC were to learn that there is a judge he has a bunker in his house, and that's where he's keeping his illicit money because of BVN and all that. So what is the NJC going to do to get at that money? So NJC knows that his power does not extend to detecting crime, preventing crime, and punishing crime. You know, except a case proceeds to read, you know, by way of prosecution, and then it can award judgment. So I run through a number of things. One, people have suggested that yes, it is good to fight this thing, but you know, the manner of fighting it is important. Approach matters. Why can't you invite these judges and all that? And I say, there's no rule of law that says that before you conduct a search or before you detect a crime, you should invite the person first. Particularly when there is intelligence report that there are exhibits, there are proceeds of crime, allegedly, or weapons or anything that is illegal in a particular dwelling house or a building, ship and all that, and that you can do that. Two, I say that for those who are so bothered about niceties and all that, the Evidence Act, Section 1, Section 14 and 15, have you made it very clear that improperly and illegally obtained evidence, once relevant, can be used in judicial proceedings? In other words, even if there is no search warrant, I'm telling you, that's the law. And the Supreme Court has validated this severally. Totti and Ukabi, Musa Sadao and the state, and such other authorities. So I really don't know what this issue is about, this thing.
Okay, run through it quickly. Our time is fast.
Yes. Third, I say that my experience is not that corruption is endemic and systemic and all too pervasive in the judiciary. No. You know, because you see, if in an institutions you have 20, 30, 50 odd judges who are corrupt, you can't use that as a basis to label the entire institution as corrupt. You don't know, judges work themselves to the bones. The NJC is breathing down their neck through the instrumentality of centralized performance evaluation. You must deliver judgment within 3 months under Section 294. If you don't do that, that's an act of misconduct and things like that. And they work in night, they are overworked. And I appreciate them. I go before judges and they gave us good judgment that you can defend any day. But I'm saying that the legal community in Nigeria, bar and bench, have a responsibility not to shield corrupt judges, not to carry out, you know, what I call an esprit de corps and maintain solidarity and say that an injury to one is an injury to all, thereby giving the impression that you are defending the corrupt because somewhere you yourself is corrupt. And that perhaps this thing is pervasive, which is not. So that's why I'm saying,
quickly,
for some of our...
Ego, GT, we have to run through, so because of our time, we have to take it very, very brief.
No, very quickly, I think there's some confusion here. Which government institution, police, the DSS, the EFCC, ICPC has the constitutional responsibility to investigate financial crimes? That is a poser which their lawyers they have to answer. If the DSS can also, their duties also permits into investigation of financial crimes and all that, I see some conflict as a non-legal practitioner. That's one. Two,
by the way, just repost quickly so that we know.
Yeah,
the SSF, for example, has the power to investigate issue of security that has economic dimension, and that's statutory.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. And even with the DSS too, once it impinges on national security, they can.
Now, how do you define national security? If somebody, because even the law, the onus lies on who is alleged to prove that if you make an allegation against someone, you have to prove your allegation that it is true.
In the courts, not before you.
In the court, but Nigerians are stakeholders in democratic process, because it is, we are stakeholders in democratic process. People cannot leave this thing for a man, for example, who, for us, we are also worried. You started the issue of Akwa Ibom and all that. There are also arguments, which I don't know how far that is true, that a lot of these judges are those who gave judgment that are not, favorable to the ruling political party and all that. If that's another leg of the argument. So it is neither here nor there. That is why even the investigating agency, in this case the DSS, should rise above board. Nobody is saying, the argument here is not whether the judges had the money or not. But once you are moving in a sting up, they said they carried out a sting operation. It is not a sting operation. A sting operation is, is a decor. You play along with the person. Why can't the DSS operative, for example, come before some of these judges as parties to a matter, offer money, because those are sting operations. We say sting operation. Time is just, and then you are able to catch them. And now we don't have.
And I think to further convince us that this is not an attack on the judiciary, and this is not an attempt to cow the judiciary, I think the government, who may have, of course, going by the several powers that are now being assigned to the DSS, now the government must go further to tell Nigerians who are those bribe givers. Okay. These people, in all, have not been accused to have looted from allocations into the NJC or the courts or whatever. They have been accused of taking in sum of money in bribe. And now, in taking bribe, someone else must be involved. Yes. Even the DSS claimed that it has, one of these judges on CCTV captured while taking bribe in a shopping mall. The DSS must come out, the government must come out and convince us further that there are other people.
Convince the people, convince the court.
Convince the Nigerians. People are stakeholders in this issue. Now. All this affects Nigerians. If judgment have been given in error, if judgment have been sold, it is not a problem that affects the sitting government or the court. It affects the destiny of a lot of people in one particular state or the other. So the DSS must come out to tell us further those that are involved in giving these bribes. Literally bribes have been given.
I earlier on explained that the National Judicial Council, by setup, is underperforming and has not performed to the best of what it ought to do for the Nigerian judiciary.
Therefore, the executive takes over their function.
No, what we're asking is that the law that sets it up needs
to be reviewed.
Because when you ask the chairman, the sitting Chief Justice of Nigeria, to be the chairman of the NJC, and the one who composes, he has power to compose the members of that committee.
The president appoints the CJM too.
I close by saying that corruption everywhere in Nigeria must be fought. So if you have corruption, on the bench, being perpetrated by a select few, the majority of us that are bothered must rally around to ensure that corruption is also.
We have not heard the last in this of all of this playing out. No. Nigerians are yet to be told all the truth. Somebody is being economical with the truth, and in the days, the weeks ahead, I'm sure that we are going to begin to know the truth. The first salvo is being fired even by the president's wife now that there's trouble within the house.
For me, well, I think, like I said, we need to know more about those that are involved. If truly judges have been bribed, who are the bribe givers? The DSS must do justice to that. And I want to say that for people who are not comfortable with the operations of the NJC and the approach to disciplining judges, I think we have to approach the National Assembly rather than taking laws, I
want to thank you, Igor Akeriga, Femi Lawson, GT Oguye, Ayo Padokun. I want to thank you. It's been wonderful. It's like 60 minutes is not enough for a lovely discussion like this, but you can always watch the repeats tomorrow on our DSTV platform 418 by 3 p.m. And that is it on Standpoint. My name is Ayodele Ozubaku. See you next week.